Yo guys, Donkin Dave here, and we're going to start working on this bike now. I've got the bike jacked up, and what we will be doing is we'll be taking the wheel off and then removing the fenders and then getting it into a condition where we can put new fenders or new forks on, and then we'll start the build. I have purchased the right front fork complete already off of eBay, and I've bought all the parts that I need to rebuild the left fork on my own. So we'll be doing that here shortly. But I wanted to show you what the bike looks like right now, just before the build. And if anybody has any questions about whether or not you can jack up a CB500 because it's a 2-cylinder, yes, you can jack it up. You just have to be careful and make sure that the jack is placed right underneath the oil pan and the header. And once you do that, you have enough support to jack up the bike on your own. As you can see, we have some straps attached so that the bike does not flip over. Want to make sure that that it's nice and secure. It's kind of leaning over toward the left right now, so the weight is being carried on these straps right here, so it doesn't fall over. But yes, you can jack it up without having a bash plate underneath, and I'll be able to do this fairly easily, I believe. So here we go. This is what it's like starting up the build. We got to get the wheel off, and then take the forks off, and then start the rebuild process. Alright, so here we go. To remove the front wheel, I'm going to use this tool right here. It's a tool that you can get at Cycle Gear. Costs you a few bucks, and as you can see, it's got multiple sizes to fit in the wheel bolts, the axle bolts right here. This is a 17 millimeter, and it'll fit right in there, just like so. And to remove the wheel, I'll just hit it with a few blows to the hammer there on the ratchet, and that should break it. Oh, also first you want to make sure that you get the pinch bolt taken out first, and I have not done that, so that will be the first thing that I will do actually. Okay guys, the pinch bolt here is a 12 millimeter bolt, and I've already loosened it up just a little bit, and that'll just come right out. And you have to remove this the entire way. We'll set that aside. Now the next is the 17. That'll fit in there just so. Make sure I don't knock the bike off the rack. And it's loosening. Just gotta use your hand or what have you. Oops, and the fork just gave away a little bit, so I'll put some old paper towels down to catch it. And now it's coming off. Alright, we'll loosen this up and show you the rest. Okay, now the fork tube actually broke as I was taking the axle out, so it was kind of fun to get the wheel off, but it still came off okay, and I was kind of concerned about the bike being off balance and then going back in the back a little bit, but that worked out fine, and worked out good. Now the next thing is to take the brake caliper off using a 12 millimeter wrench as well. These are 2 bolts, just 12 millimeters, and that'll come off, and then we'll get into taking the fork tubes out. Alright, so that's next. Alright, so the brake caliper came off easily with the 12 millimeter bolt, taking that out with the 12 millimeter wrench. And yes, I do have the brake caliper hanging down just a little bit. As you can see, it's hanging off of this hanger right here and hanging down. Now this caliper is so light, it really doesn't weigh very much, so I feel comfortable in letting it hang down just a little bit. Everybody else says no, you shouldn't let them hang down or anything like that. You know, let your own judgment be your guide, but that is so light, the caliper is so light that I don't have any fear about this thing getting messed up. Okay, so next we have the fork mounting bolts here, 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 and here to loosen up, and then the forks will slide right out. So we'll get that done and I'll be back. Okay guys, I want to show you what it looks like without the forks being on. And as you can see, you have a pinch bolt there and a pinch bolt right there. Now this is a 14 millimeter head to the bolt, and what you do is you loosen these up, loosen that, and then this right here, this is a 12 millimeter bolt head, and you loosen that up, and there's another one here on this side. Loosen those up, and what I did is I used a screwdriver to come in here and to separate the fork triple trees just a little bit so that I could pull it down. It was kind of a bear on this one, but this one here came out really easy. It took me about 5 minutes overall to do this. So as you can see, the radiator's got a little bit of a ding right there, but that's fine. It's holding air just fine, or holding water just fine. And I think my headstock right here looks okay. We'll see as time goes on how that really looks. But yeah, here is the fork. Here's the right side fork, and as you can see, it's toast. The fork tube is toast, and then I broke off this tab. Got something in the way here. That tab right there broke off, and that's one of the holder flanges for the for this, which is the brake line. It's a brake line flange there to bolt in. So that broke, and so this whole thing here is just toast. I have another used one that I bought on eBay, whole entire fork assembly, and I'll be using that. So this is looking okay. I have not been at this for very long, maybe 15 minutes total in work time so far to get all this done. So we're ready to start mounting up some forks. Okay, so here is a comparison of the two forks. This is the other right side fork that I need. And how do I know that this is the right side fork? Because there's threads right here where the axle will go into. Here's our axle right here. Goes in this way, in this direction, so has to come through just like that. Just like that. And so I'm ready to mount this up. And I'll see if I can do this with one hand. Probably can't, but that's okay. No, I can't. Gotta have two hands, so I'll be back. Okay, guys, so I have this first fork installed, and it's the right fork, and I'll tell you a couple of secrets or tricks that I used on this. You have to get the screwdriver in between the triple tree to spread it open just a little bit. And then what I did is I used a hammer. Where's my hammer? Here's my hammer. And I hit the fork to press it up just a little bit with the handle of the hammer. Do not use the head of the hammer. Use the handle of the hammer to knock that up just a little bit. And I'll show you where I positioned the fork top. Now right here, I got the fork just flush with the triple tree right here in this corner. And something else that I just noticed about this fork, as you can see, it has a preload adjuster on it right now, which is abso-fucking-lutely cool. Because these are, the 2013s do not have preload adjustment. So what I'm going to have to do is I will back this thing off down to nothing as far as preload, and the next fork that I mount will not have a preload adjuster. But I'll have to get another set of preload adjusters and put these on so that we can have preload, which is cool because you got to have some kind of adjustment in shocks. No doubt about that. You got to have that in your suspension. So that's where I'm at here. Now it's a matter of just tightening up the pinch bolts here and down below. And again, this is a 12 millimeter here, and the one below is a 14 millimeter. And you can just hand tighten them. I got these things loose by hand. They were hand tightened on, it looked like. So we'll do that. And tomorrow, since I do not have any fork oil right now, I'm going to have to rebuild the shock tomorrow and put the fork oil in it, and we'll be ready to rock and roll tomorrow. So tomorrow I will have a working motorcycle. Ta-da! Donkey Dave out. Okay guys, we're back. It's day 2 of our build, and to just review, we took off the old forks that were really badly mangled, and replaced the right fork with a complete assembly that I bought off of eBay. Bought that pretty cheap. And I contacted a couple of guys that were on the CB500X website. They had done the Rally Raid upgrade on their bikes, so they had extra parts laying around. So I was able to purchase some of their old parts cheap because they just didn't need them anymore. So I purchased them, and so now we're going to go into the building of the left side fork. Now I want to talk about something real quick here, and that is about cleanliness. Now as you can see, I don't have a great shop. I'm just working right here out of a carport more or less, but my parts that I have here, they're all used parts, but they have been cleaned. It's very important just to make sure that every part that you use in a fork assembly is absolutely clean. So what I've done is I've sprayed all the parts with carburetor cleaner and made sure that all the grit and everything else is just not existent on these parts. They are essentially brand new parts, or actually they're just used parts, but they look like brand new parts that have been cleaned. And here's my girl right here, my dog, that's gonna say hi. Her name's Belle, and she's a sweetie. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to start the build, and I'll go through the process. If I can do that with one hand, great. If not, I'll have to stop and just kind of describe what goes on here. But it shouldn't take too long. It's really easy to do. These springs and forks are not complicated at all, and anybody can do this. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so what we have here is we have our fork tube, and this is a brand new one that I bought off of eBay from somebody that had it on sale for like 90 bucks. So that's very clean, it's brand new. So this piece right here is going to go right inside the tube right there and stop. And then this, which is your fork damper, whatever thing it's called, with your pullback spring, that's going to go in there, in from the top. And then on top of the below here on the fork tube is going to be this seal, and then this washer will go on top, and then comes the fork seal, and then the spring here to hold it in, and then the top. And then lastly, after we add our fork oil, will be the top here to the cap top. But we'll just go through the process and let you know how it turns out. Okay guys, I have been at this for about an hour and I have something to show you. Okay, now when you're going to rebuild your forks, and I'm talking about putting in new fork seals, you have a lower bushing that comes down here, and that's going to mount on your fork tube right here. And then you have an upper bushing, and what that does is that fits over the fork tube and it goes into this little area right there. Okay, now this thing has a little slot in it. Where is it? Where'd it go? It has a little slot in it right there, so it can expand just a little bit so you can get it off of the fork tube, and then it also will compress down. Okay, but here is the thing. The tolerances for that seal to fit in that tube right there are extremely tight. And if you get the if you get it sideways, going into the fork, I don't know what you would call this, the lower fork tube, if you get that sideways, it's not going to fit. So what I did is I took, because the tolerances are so small on there, it's so tight, I fiddled with it for an hour. I took some very fine sandpaper and I sanded this out to open it up just a tiny bit. And then you put the seal on. It's not a seal, it's like a slide. It's this thing. You put that on over there, and then you put on the washer. Where's the washer? Where's my washer? You put the washer on, and then you take your fork seal presser and you put it over, and then you can kind of hit it down. Now what I did is I used my hammer, but I used the butt end of my hammer handle to knock it down very gently, like that. And eventually it was knocked in. But I'm going to tell you what, guys, there's the washer right there. There's the washer right there. As you can see, and I'll see if I can show you, that race or what have you is way down there, and it fits right up against the fork tube and this exterior fork tube, and it is a son of a bitch to get in there perfectly. And so what I would suggest again is take some very fine grit sandpaper and just go on the inside right here. Just make that a little bit wider, just a tiny little bit, and then you'll have more room to maneuver that bushing in. It has been a son of a bitch, but I'm about done now, so that'll work out. Okay, the next thing to do on this is to, again, wherever my my washer went, put the washer on, and it goes down in there. And then now the fork seal, although this one's kind of boogered, I'm going to go get the other one that I just disassembled. I'm going to use that one. Now, some of you guys are going to say, Dave, you know, you got to use brand new fork seals. I agree if your fork seals are leaking, because they're bad. But these fork seals are in good repair. They're in good shape. So I am going to reuse them, and if need be, if they do start to leak, that I will replace them. But for right now, they're not in bad shape, so I'm gonna reuse them. All right, I'll be back. Okay, guys, little trick right here. This is what is this? 1.5. I think it's 1.5 PVC pipe. It's a junction piece, and what I did is I went to my grinder and I ground this thing down so I have a bevel on it, and that will fit right over to make a fork seal driver right there. You don't have to spend 30 or 40 bucks on a piece on a tool like that. So I slid that over, and then again use the butt end of the hammer to drive that down. So you do not mess up your fork tube. Don't do that, guys, because you'll have to buy new ones. Okay, so that fork seal is in. It's all ready to go. Now I'm going to put the spring on, the spring clip right here, and then the cap. That'll go on. And then I'm ready to add oil and add my spring and then add oil. So we're ready to rock and roll. All right. Okay, guys, so I've got everything all buttoned up. I put in 453 was it cubic centimeters, cc's of fork oil. I'm using a Yamalube 10 weight. Oh, it's 5 weight. It should be 10. I might have to change my fork oil. I got the wrong stuff. But that's 5 weight oil. Damn it. Okay, so I got it all sealed up, all buttoned up and everything. And be sure that, number one, you do not lose the washer with the bolt that goes through to your damper. Do not lose that washer. If you do, you'll be in trouble. And I got it all buttoned up. It's all ready to go in. It's just a matter of spreading the triple tree just a little bit to be able to get that fork tube up into there. And it's a good time to do some cleaning while you got the bike kind of disassembled a little bit. So I'm going to do that and then put the forks in, and then we'll talk some more. Well, as you can see, the forks came out great. I was finally able to get the left fork all put together, and they look good. Actually, they look pretty fantastic, I think. But we have an issue, and it is this. Watch that again. The rotor is bent. And upon further review, I'm looking the bike over a little bit. There is a bend right there in the wheel. So, as Tom Hanks says in Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem. So it's back to eBay to try to find some replacement parts. I think I can get a rotor, and I know that I can find a wheel, although I don't know how much it'll cost. But that's just the breaks in buying one of these salvage bikes. You just never know what you're going to get. So we'll be back again. The saga continues with the CB500X CB500X rebuild. Donk and Dave out.